Der Greenlight Podcast. Life begins when the light turns green. Greenlight is ready at breach. Welcome to all the listeners and all the viewers of the Greenlight Podcast. The next episode is ready to go, and as you can hear, we will be doing the whole thing in English. But I hope you can still hang on, because I know that you guys are all watching the show already and stuff, and all the US content, so you might as well listen to me in English. And our guest, Gary, former British soldier, triathlete, Hyrox athlete, head of rehab at Greenlight Fitness, and much more to talk about. So, Gaz, will you introduce yourself very shortly to the listeners?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Dean. So I'm Gaz. I'm the head of rehab for Greenlight Fitness, which is how me and Dean know each other. But kind of previously to that, I'm an ex-British soldier, served 15 years in the British military, everything from bomb disposal all the way through to exercise rehabilitation. Left the military 4 years ago now, actually, so it's been a while. But yeah, left the military, set up a company called Plug-in Rehab, worked very, very closely with, obviously, a similar kind of style of military training and specialised training for Red On Group. I've got a passion, I suppose, for everything fitness, which is nice. So currently competing in Hyrox and triathlon. I used to be a decent triathlete back in the day, and as Dean said, got a world record, which I'm sure we'll come on to in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, definitely, because that is pretty quite a nice achievement, being the fastest hot dog on a marathon. So we'll dive into that. So before we carry on, I have to say sorry for the picture and stuff, because we just had lots of technical issues here. So I hope the sound is crisp, because that's what it's all about, to listen to us. And the picture's not the very best we had, but not to worry. Okay, Gaz, lots of interesting points we can discuss and are very interesting for me as well, because for all the people that don't follow me too closely know that I have a British family. Half of my family is from the UK anyway, and my dad used to be in the British military as well for 20 years in the REME, so nice. There's some kind of connection.
Yeah.
But how does it work for you guys? You said you were there for 16 years. How do you start in the British Army? Do you have like a timed contract? Do you just go in and leave sometime? How does that work with you guys?
Yeah, so I think we've had a conversation about this previously, that it's so different from the German military to the UK military. When you join the British military, once you've passed training, you have to stay in for a period of 4 years. So your initial term is 4 years. You have to do that. So people can leave training whenever they want and they're out before that. But once you're a trained soldier, you have to stay in for the 4-year period. Now, you don't then... I don't know how you do it in Germany, but you don't like sign agreements to say, right, I will stay in for 10 years, 12 years, 20 years, whatever it may be. You just kind of keep going through. You get certain points where you get like financially rewarded. So 8-year point, you get some money. You get a lump sum of money. So it pays to be in there for that period of time. It's not a lot of money, but I think it's something like £10,000, or it was £10,000. It probably changes it now. And then at the 12-year point, if you leave, you get your half pension. So half of a full pension, which would be a 24-year point. But it just means that if you leave at any point after your 12-year point, you can take your £10,000 and go and do something else with your life. After that, there's no real incentive to stay in other than the full pension at 24 years. So if you are a normal soldier, you'll stay in for a full 24-year period if you want. You can leave at any point after your 4-year point. You just have to give a 1 year's notice for that. So I don't know how it works in Germany, but we operate on, like, if you sign off, you give a year back and then you get out.
Ah, okay. Yeah, in the German army, it's mostly changes. It's been changing quite a lot the last couple of years, but normally you sign in, you say, I'm going to stay in for 4 years, then you sign in for 4 years, then you can renew your contract and say, I'm going to stay for another 4 years. But it's not like a monthly quitting, yearly quitting system. So if I'm in for 12 years, if I signed off for 12, it'll be pretty difficult to leave.
Right, okay.
You'll have to stick with it, of course. You can always, I don't know, what people bring up the issues that they have to leave, but it's not as easy. But I think the more interesting part is actually how it works with your rank system, because if I would say, like yourself, you're staying in for 15 years, how is it decided if you're going to be an NCO, which ranks you're going to get promoted to? Do you do special courses? Do you have to be recommended? How does that work?
Yeah, so everything's done on recommendations. So you get reports, and every 3 reports you can then go and promote. So 3 years, you can then promote to the next rank. Now, there's different parts of the military where you can do it a little bit quicker or it takes a little bit longer. But essentially, 3 years in whatever rank it is, whether that is a private, lance corporal, corporal, you do 3 years, you get your report. And then if you're recommended to get promoted to the next level, you'll then go away and do whatever specialized course it is. So if we look at lance corporal to corporal, you get selected to go and be a corporal, and your regiment say, yes, we want you to now be a corporal. You go away and do a series of courses. So you'll do like your section commander's course, so being in charge of a section. You'll then go away and do whatever trade course it is that you have, and then you'll do a specialist course, whether you're going to be an instructor or not be an instructor, and then you'll get promoted and move on from there. But it's normally around about 3 years, depending on if you're a good bloke, you'll get promoted near enough every 3 years. The first promotions obviously takes a little bit longer, but normally that's how it works with the British military. Definitely, I don't know what the German side of it is, but we tend to work on recommendations. So you don't just get told that in 4 years' time you'll be a corporal, in 6 years' time you'll be a sergeant. Like, that's not how it works in the British military anyway.
Yeah, and that's probably the biggest difference. And I would say I do prefer the British way of doing it, because maybe some guys from the UK are listening, some of your community. So in the German army, basically you start and you tell them how long you're going to stay, and with that also which ranks you're going to go through. So you would start like, I'm going to sign in for 14 years as a sergeant trainee. So I would do basic training and do all my sergeant courses and everything what belongs to it in the first 3 years of my time in the army. And after the 3 years, if I've done everything properly, I'll be promoted to a sergeant. So it's quite a lot different. And I do prefer your system, just get started, you're in the army, and then we'll see what you are capable of, and if we can use you as an NCO or maybe not. And the promotion times also, because we've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 private ranks.
Right, okay.
So we've got 5 ranks that are more or less privates, and he'll be promoted in the first 4 years. He'll be promoted to the 5th rank. So he'll be promoted quite a lot of times, which doesn't make sense in my opinion, because you don't have to do anything to be promoted. You just have to be there. And
time.
It's time. And I don't really like it, but I know why the German army does it, because it's more attractive for people to start, to say, hey, you've got a good test, you've got halfway decent education, and here in the next 3 years you can be a sergeant. And that's definitely, some people are like, oh, that's good, better than being a private for 6 years. So
yeah, the British one's slightly different in that sense, just because, I mean, we all know people who probably shouldn't be in the rank that they're in. Like we've probably all got a list of them people. I would hate to see the British military go down the route of everyone just gets promoted at certain times, because some people just will never be good enough to be a certain rank, or, it just doesn't work out for them. So actually, I think I don't want to say it's better, but it seems like it's more efficient from the British side once out of the 100 times, that we recommend them. So they have to be a good soldier. They have to be ticking boxes. They have to be recommended by their superiors to actually get promotion to the next level, rather than just having, well done, mate, you've been in for 4 years, go and be a lance corporal, go be a corporal. Like, it just, for me, I would hate that.
Yeah, and it gives the rank more value again, because I don't know, like when can you be a sergeant in the British? It'll be earliest 6 years, something.
Yeah, you won't see many sergeants that are sergeants before probably like 9 or 10 years, I would say.
Okay, so that's totally different. Like here, you can be a sergeant after 3 years.
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
I mean, for most people getting into the British military, the first year and a half is training anyway. So they'll do the basic training, they'll then do the specialist training, and then they'll go to their unit. So that first like 12 to 18 months is pretty much just doing the training. But yeah, I mean, if you look at infantry, so infantry are very slow at promoting. So they'll because if you think about it in the UK military, if you've got one, I don't know, Yorkshire Regiment, for example, is a pyramid. So they've essentially got the CO at the top, so the lieutenant colonel. We've got all the ranks underneath it, but you're basically waiting for the next person to drop, and then everyone can move up a little bit, and there's a gap there for it. Whereas across like the wider army, yes, it's easy to get promoted, but in the infantry, I would say sergeants probably on average maybe 13 to 15 years to get a sergeant. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, especially I think you always have a bit of a trouble then if you're like on operations abroad where you work internationally. And yeah, US, they're going to be a sergeant pretty early as well. They're like a sergeant after 4 or 5 years as well, maybe even earlier. And then it's difficult to compare like, hey, that's a sergeant, that's a sergeant. So like I've got probably 3 times the experience of you guys, but you're still like on the same level. I think that makes working together a bit difficult.
Yeah, it's like a universal rank structure, right? Isn't it? So sergeants will talk to sergeants in different militaries and stuff. But yeah, it's everywhere is completely different. The US military is fairly similar to the German in that sense of you get promoted fairly quickly. Oh, maybe everyone gets promoted fairly quickly, and the UK is just very slow. Like maybe that's the way it is.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. But I think like a middle comparison would be nice because I don't really like the way the German army is doing it because, as you said, there's lots of staff sergeant, master sergeants and stuff, and the value is lost if everybody's got the rank. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said you started off as an engineer. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I was in the Royal Engineers for 12 years. First of all, so I did that and then moved over into the Royal Army Physical Training Corps.
So how does life look like with the Royal Engineers? You said you went down the route bomb disposal. So I've seen pictures of you in Afghanistan. So you were sweeping the lanes, probably. Is that something
Yeah. So the Royal Engineers is kind of like a mix of everything. So we do a bit of everything. It's not necessarily engineering. It's more like building bridges, route clearance stuff, field fortification. So building trenches and building camps in Afghanistan and stuff like that as well. So it's a little bit of everything in that sense. So I mean, day-to-day life in the engineers was probably standard to most days in most military lives of just when you're not on tour and you're not doing exercise, it's pretty mundane, just boring stuff. You're doing your exercises and stuff like that, and that's about it. But yeah, when we were on tour, so I did 1 tour of Iraq and then 2 tours of Afghanistan. So lots of different jobs out there, whether it was building camps like, Camp Bastion, Basra Palace, that kind of stuff, bomb disposal work or search work from that side of looking after route proving stuff. So making sure that, people can get to places safely, bridging, stuff like that. It was just a bit of everything. It was quite cool actually to be in the engineers and doing a little bit of everything. So we'd get attached to like the infantry, we'd then get attached to whether it was like some of the driver lot to get them to their spot quite safely. But yeah, it was quite a good time for me. I really enjoyed the time in the engineers. It was it was a good time for me because the sense of I joined the military in early 2006, and I literally got to my unit, flew to Iraq, did a tour of Iraq, flew back for 6 months, flew to Afghanistan, flew back for a year, and then went to Afghanistan again. So almost in the first 3 years, I had 18 months worth of operational experience straight away, which was quite nice for me, and I quite enjoyed having that like banked up, almost going, right, cool, I've done some cool stuff in the first few years, and now I can look at like what courses do I want to do, where do I want to go, And it's always quite forward thinking in the engineers as well, that they are one of the parts of the military where they try to push you forward into getting promoted or doing your commando course or, you know, going on P company and all these different things, which is quite nice.
So how would you say because I've not been, funny enough, I was an engineer with my tour in Afghanistan as well, because I started off as an engineer as well.
Nice.
So I was as a private engineer 2011 in Afghanistan up in North. But how would you say Iraq and Afghanistan compared for you? Because I've never been to Iraq, so that would be interesting to know.
Yeah, Iraq was almost like closing down a little bit in 2007, which is it meant it was quite a chilled time over there. Really, I mean, we did a couple of operations out there. It was almost just pulling in the last few kind of high value targets and all that kind of stuff. So I would just be part of patrols that went out or anything that was alongside that. It wasn't like a war fighting tour. We were essentially sitting ducks in a camp where they would just mortar us every single night. So every night we would just get hit with mortar fire constantly, but we couldn't actually go out and do stuff because everyone had decided that, you know, the British military and Americans had decided that they were withdrawing over the next 2 years. So it wasn't there about going out and like taking the fight to the enemy, so to speak. It was very much about just staying in there, being like a security force and all that kind of stuff, which meant we just stayed in camp for the majority of the time and just got mortar fire coming in. I've got a great map at home which showed every single mortar attack that happened on our base while we were there, and we had 472 mortar attacks in a 6-month period. So.
Okay, that's quite decent. But you had like proper accommodation, or how did you guys get on with it?
Yeah, it was similar to. Have you been to Camp Bastion before in
No,
Afghanistan?
I haven't.
No. Oh, so it was very similar to that. So quite a like substantial place. It were, you know, big tents, big like food halls, stuff like that. It was because it was Basra, so it was just south of like the actual city, which had been built up for years and years and years. So we helped build it up, but part of our job when we were there was to start stripping it back a little bit. So we were opening up the camp walls, bringing it back a little bit, and then kind of sitting there, stagging on that overnight, making sure no one came in, then bringing it back a little bit more. So it was almost closing it down as well. So the difference between, I guess, Iraq and Afghanistan was that Iraq was very not kinetic, not war fighting. It was quite peaceful, minus the mortar attacks. And then we moved forward to Afghanistan. The first Afghanistan was very much like war fighting and and kind of being out there in the trenches with the enemy, I guess.
So how you just said engineers, like for the Germans, Pioniere, you can be connected or to any other unit that needs you. Yeah? As if it's the infantry or whoever's going outside and needs support. So Afghanistan, I would think your main work was probably ID route clearance, or
yeah, it was building up the infrastructure there as well at the time. So we worked as like a little pod of engineers that went around and just looked at a field, went, right, okay, we're going to build a camp here. So there was like 10, 12 of us that were in our troop, and we would go to an area. We would build up a camp for the infantry to come in. So we would be there on our own for a lot of the time, which was quite nice and quite cool. Obviously, it meant that we were out on our own, so we were getting hammered by, you know, RPG stuff and all that kind of bits. A lot of there was a lot of firefights in there, which was, I mean, I say good. It was, you kind of joined to do that anyway. So like when I look back, it still blows my mind a little bit, and maybe for you as well, Dean. Like to think that you went to war, but also in the same sense, there's a lot of peace in that as well. I quite enjoyed being there with the boys, doing what we were actually trained to do, and to go through that period of time. So yeah, a lot of our time in Afghanistan originally was making sure that we had the infrastructure built up so that we could go out and do operations from there, but also defending the areas that we were in to make sure that, you know, we were keeping the Taliban away from where we needed to be.
Yeah, we have to definitely clarify that the south of Afghanistan, mainly where the British troops were operating, is definitely a different environment than the northern Afghanistan, even though the German army has had some heavy combat and firefights up in north, but not the amount like the British US troops had down south. So it's definitely, I think you can't really compare it because there's been a couple of big ones that are pretty known in the German army. But like in the British and US army, there's probably been 3 of these gunfights every day down in south. So
Yeah.
Germany was in a little bit safer place, not reducing whatever we did there, but still,
No, of
it
course.
is. You can't compare it, I think, because I've read quite a lot of books as well about like the Helmand province. There's been some cool books about that place, and yeah, definitely the wild, wild west, I would say.
Yeah, it was. It was the first tour we did was crazy from the sense of you would be walking down the street and there was a point where I think you just you knew you were going into a firefight every single day for like a period of time. So every time you walked out of the gate, it was you were ready to go. It was all you were very much on edge every single time you walked out for that first tour. Anyway, I know I definitely was on that first tour. But then, I suppose it did start calming down towards the back end of Op Herrick as well. But yeah, it was Helmand was a different place. I think it was some parts of it that was unbelievably nice. It looked like it was paradise, like you were walking through and you're thinking, I could come on holiday here. This is nice. And there was other parts where you were just like, we're gonna die today, and I don't know what's gonna go on. But yeah, it was it's something you always look back on and go, okay, that was a cool time of our lives to be able to do that as well.
So which year was it? Your first deployment? 2009ish, 2010?
Yeah, 2009, I believe. So it was Op Herrick. Was it 2009? Op Herrick 12. I did. So I did Optelic 11, Op Herrick 12, and then Op Herrick 17. So I did I did a winter tour in Iraq, summer tour in Afghanistan, and then a winter tour in Afghanistan as well.
So that's quite interesting how you name your rotations, like Op Herrick and stuff, because we just say 26, 27th rotation, but you've got like different names for different places as well, or?
Yeah, so each battle group goes into there and they have their own, like, you are on Op Herrick 6, and then the next people that will come along will be on Op Herrick 7. So each 6-month period of time is essentially its own operation because it's run by different people. So it'll be a different battle group, run by a different commander, run by it's almost like bringing in a whole different army, but it switches everyone out and switches a new battle group back in. So yeah, we call each operation by the name of like I say, they're Op Herrick 12, Op Herrick 13, Op Herrick 14. So yeah, it's all a specific operation.
Okay, so if you're like in whatever Camp Bastion and the whole op changes, they've got their own name, but guys posted somewhere else, their op has got also a different name.
So everyone who went to if you were in the Afghanistan rotation, if you went, I don't know, and it was June and it was Op Herrick 6, you would all be on Op Herrick 6. It didn't matter if you were in Camp Bastion or Sangin or wherever it was. Like, you were just part of that operation. And then when you switched out, the next people would come in and they'd be on Op Herrick 7.
Okay, easy. How long are your deployments? Usually what's the standard deployment time for the British Army?
They say 6 months, but it's definitely 7 months. So
with in and out.
Yeah, they say, I heard a rumor, I'm not sure how true it is, but if you're out of the country for like 6 months and 30 days, you get your tax back in the UK. So basically, they keep you under that by a couple of days and then send you back.
I think that could be true. It's the same in Germany, definitely. If you're not in Germany for over half a year, you definitely get some kind of tax rewards. I was in for 181 days, so nearly got it.
Oh, mate, yeah, they do it on purpose, I'm sure. But yeah, it's supposed to be 6 months. How long's the German tour?
Depends on. They started with 4-month rotations, and then we did 6 months because I think they realized 4 months is a bit too short because coming on, taking over, having routines, knowing yourself about, and then you're leaving again. So at the end, it was like 6 months standard for the normal army. Just like pilots and stuff, they all have like special treatment. They do 6-week tours and
Yeah. They swap in and out, don't they? They just because they
Yeah.
get tired.
Yeah. It is pretty funny how the like the helicopter pilots and stuff are treated. Of course, they have to sleep and stuff. It makes sense. I don't want a tired helicopter pilot. But on the other side, being at the special forces, I don't sleep. I don't sleep at all, and I have to
No.
shoot bullets just like a centimeter next to my mates under night vision. So I think I should be sleeping as well. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. I know like the UK Special Forces do quite short tours, but they're always in and out. So they'll maybe do like 4 weeks in Afghanistan, come back for a couple of days, and then go out again, and they're just non-stop on like a trip on an op cycle as well. So yeah, it's each military is completely different with that kind of stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it is definitely. I think we can always still learn quite a lot of the British Army because the British Army does have a very, very long history and tradition. The German Army doesn't have it anymore because we had to do like a cut after 1945, and uh, so anything that happened before 1945 is not relatable for the German
Of
Army as
course.
well, which is pretty sad. Well, just taking the World War II away, but all the years before, like Prussia's army and stuff. It's all we're not allowed to
Do
have
you not?
any.
Yeah, are
No,
you not
no.
allowed to talk about all that kind of stuff?
You're allowed to talk about it, especially yeah, definitely. We talk about it quite a lot, but you would never go into like we don't have like a sergeant's mess at all anyway. But
Right.
like if you would have like a nice room in camp, you wouldn't have any stuff from younger than 19 I don't know 54 56 that Bundeswehr was created. Nothing before that. You would not
No.
have any battles from whatever Prussia. You wouldn't have it at all.
Yeah, it's a bit crazy that, isn't it? I always thought that you would have stuff pre World War Two and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I didn't know you just kind of don't mention that either.
No, it's not part of the German, well, not the Bundeswehr history. I know there's been quite a lot of stuff going on the last 6 or 7 years where they've done said a new tradition of the Bundeswehr and stuff, yeah, whatever. But it's only 60 years of tradition, and I don't know how long the British Army goes back. But I remember being like in sergeant's mess at Dad's camp and stuff, and you've got like battle flags from 1700 something, and regiments that
Yeah.
are 200-300 years old, and that's something what is very well, I would like to have something like that, and it gives the soldiers, I think, a bit more pride in the whole thing, and that's something you can definitely learn from the British Army, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you go into most sergeants' messes, particularly, I mean, the Royal Engineers is an easy one. So I think when I was in, they had their 300-year anniversary, so we had like a big parade and all that kind of stuff. But um, there's pictures of like Rorke's Drift, and there's pictures of battles back in the 1700s that you can look at on the wall and stuff like that, which is I think quite cool to have that, anyways, at least with that tradition. And then there's obviously some military units that claim that they've been back, hundreds and even thousands of years. Some of them because they say that they were the original ones and all this kind of stuff.
Thousands of years, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, we were doing this for 1,000 years, but yeah, everyone, each unit and each regiment has its own tradition as well. So every part of the wider army, so to speak, has different like battle awards and different pictures on their walls and different like heroes within their messes and stuff like that. So it's nice to see different ones. And when you go to, like you were saying, you went to your dad's sergeant's mess, that will be completely different to if you went to the next unit along and had a look in their sergeant's mess. It would all be completely different, which I think like it's quite nice to see the tradition of it.
Definitely, I think it gives the whole soldier more purpose and more value to the whole thing, and that's what it's all about. That's what you need if you're going into battle. You need some kind of value and purpose you are committed to, and that's why most of the German soldiers are very sad that we are like only have our little 50-year history now, and
Yeah.
nothing else. Even though I would say the German military has been pretty efficient before 1956, and there's lots
Oh,
of stuff
100%.
we could have taken over, but would rather not.
Yeah, I was. That's what I didn't. I've never actually, because I suppose it's a touchy subject, isn't it? I mean, I don't mind having conversations about touchy subjects, as you
Yeah.
know, and neither do you. So it's nice to understand from that perspective. I just always thought that you would still have all the traditions from years and years before that. But yeah, I didn't actually know
that. Would you say like the value of traditions in the British Army is always kept alive, or do you think it might be floating out a bit like the last couple of years? Because I think we're all sitting in the same boat worldwide with like wokeness maybe and political correctness and yeah, all this kind of stuff, which is pretty good in some spaces maybe, but definitely has some downsides for the military, I would say, as well. Is there any kind of that stuff going on in the UK?
Yeah, I think it's worldwide, like you're saying. I don't think it's UK or German based. I think it's difficult. I definitely noticed the difference from joining, and I didn't, 2006 isn't really that long ago, but I've noticed the difference from 2006 and when I left in 2020. There was a clear difference between what was happening in training and what's not happening in training. I know when I first joined, it was very, I wouldn't say bullying, but it felt a little bit like bullying in basic training. And I think I kind of expected it anyway. So it wasn't why have you just punched so and so or what's gone on. I kind of already expected that. My dad did say to me that that's how training is, and I just like, right, that's the military, that's how we do it. I think it definitely brought together. It brings everyone together as a recruit, I think, knowing that it's almost like you against the instructors rather than it was nowadays the instructors very much like embedded in their, with the recruits, and it's more about education and bringing out the best communication, all that kind of stuff. Whereas ours was, I suppose, very much do as I say or you're going to get punished. Like that was the line with it. And I don't think you get away with it nowadays. And I know that there's certain rules, particularly as when I moved into like the physical training aspect of taking recruits through training and all that kind of stuff, there was certain rules that you were, bound by. Risk assessments were a lot tighter and you weren't allowed to just go off and do your own thing like we used to. But yeah, I think there's been a bit of a shift in it, and now I'm completely on the same wavelength as you. I think for some parts of it's great. It does make, maybe more thinking soldiers and soldiers that are a little bit more like in tune to what's going on in everyday life. But when it comes to kind of like physical robustness and people willing to like dig in and do what they need to do to get the job done, I think we probably lost a little bit of that.
Yeah, I think it's as with most topics, the truth is in between somewhere, I would think, because I do like, or I think it's very very necessary to have a hard training at certain stages, especially when you just start, because that what you just said happens. The recruits, they all put together, the camaraderie is built. That's not built when I'm not really in a hard situation. So I think it's very, very important. But also I do think it's important that all instructors they know what they're doing, and it's not like torturing and it's like some weirdo just living his fantasies out, and because it's just got a little bit of power. So I think it's always about giving them a hard time, but also educating them. And at the end of the day, the people should know, okay, he is pretty rough on us, but he's going to do the right thing for us. And I would also like to join him on operation and stuff, and I wouldn't shoot him in the back.
No, yeah, that's because there's stories of people getting shot in the back in various different wars as well. So yeah, you don't need that, do you?
No, definitely not. One thing I just forgot to ask, because like the German listeners won't know what a sergeant's mess is. Can you maybe tell us what the sergeant's mess is all about?
Yeah, so there's different messes. So you've got the sergeant's mess and the officer's mess. So it's essentially where sergeants, staff sergeants, warrant officers can go to chill out, like take a break, have their evening meal, have their functions, and it's essentially where they go to have their own time and their own space away from the NCOs and the officers to do that. I think they used to say it was like the most exclusive club in the world because you can't buy into it, but you have to be a sergeant or a warrant officer in that unit to go to that sergeant's mess. So it was, I can't remember what the actual phrase was, something like most difficult club to get into in the world, but it's the most exclusive as well, which is quite nice. But I think to paint a picture, it's almost like a golf club. If you go into a golf club and it's got plaques on the walls and pictures on the walls, and you can, in some of them, you've got your own like lockers and space and stuff like that. You've got your own dining hall in there, which is nice. So it's just a space away from everyone else, really, to go and chill and have a conversation in quiet as well. It's also, I think, from a organizational standpoint, it's a nice place to just sit down with other sergeants who are in the unit to just have a conversation and see what they're doing as well.
So it is like a bit like in German, the Unteroffiziersheim and the Offiziersheim, but I would say it's a lot more, as you said, like a golf club, a lot more posh. It's very, very. I only know the couple of I've been in with my dad. It's like very, very fancy, very like a gentleman's club, more like.
Yeah.
I can imagine there's some rules of how do I behave in there, what kind of dress do I wear, what's like the rules of engagement in that kind of place.
Yeah, 100%. So you've got to like dress smart. Yeah, you got to. There's certain different rules as well. So, like if you're at a mess dinner, you've got to pass like the port to the left hand side. It can't leave the table. Like stuff like all little.
And you like drinking a port? I know that's a big thing in the sergeant's mess, having port wine, isn't it?
Yeah. It's essentially a drinking club for 30 to 40-year-old men.
Yeah, I always enjoyed it, and that's why I just mentioned with like a tradition. It's like you come in there and it's like a whole special vibe being in there. And the thing you just said, like these traditions, having like certain drinks and food, and we have to pass it on with a left hand, and I think it's pretty cool to have that kind of traditions. But you could go in with your normal uniform, or no, you have to have your first dress on.
Yeah, so you can go in the normal uniform during the daytime, and then if you go in for the evening meal, I think you still can eat in your uniform if you've been working, but if not, it's like shirt, chino, trousers, shoes, as a minimum.
Okay.
Which didn't work out for me because, as you know, I just wear tracksuit all the time. So,
so you couldn't go in, or
I used to avoid. Yeah, I'd go in on special occasions. Yeah.
Okay, so there's like like proper dinners, probably where all the NCOs of a unit gather as well, and someone smart has like a big speech and.
Yeah, so they do all sorts of different ones. So throughout the year, most sergeants' messes will have at least like a winter ball, a summer ball, various different ones. Burns night, which is a Scottish tradition. So all the Scottish people will put that on. They'll have haggis and all that kind of stuff, and people will be doing songs and speeches as well. So yeah, there's loads and loads of different events that across the year that every sergeant's mess will have. But then obviously, depending on your battle honours and all that kind of stuff, you may have 2 or 3 different events as well that you need to attend.
That's an interesting topic I didn't think about before, but the British Army is the British Army, and for all listeners, Great Britain is more than just England.
Yeah.
So you've got English, Welsh, Scottish, and Northern Irish people joining them, and so they all have their own like regiments, or is that all just transferred wildly?
No, there's a couple. So like, there's loads and loads. There's loads of Scottish regiments. There's a couple of Welsh regiments as well. There's a couple of Irish ones. But yeah, you don't because you're Scottish, you don't have to join, Royal Regiment of Scotland or whatever. You can join any unit really. But it's quite a multicultural military really, because all the Commonwealth soldiers can still join as well. So we've got South Africans, Fijians who are in there as well. So loads and loads of different soldiers from all walks of life, which is quite cool.
So how does that work? Like a South African could just join the British Army, he'll apply and then he's
he does, applies and does it. And obviously we've got the Gurkha regiments as well, so all the Nepalese different regiments, which it's so multicultural. It's not, it's as far from just being an English army. It's so diverse and it's like amazing to work with different cultures and see how different people work and how different soldiers do different things as well. So it's nice to be part of that kind of culture, mate.
It's pretty interesting. Oh, well, at least you've got like you don't have a language barrier, so that's pretty decent. All people speaking English, even though in an accent like the Scottish and the Welsh and the Irish, but it's still going to be some kind of English. Because they're talking about like European army for quite some time. And I personally don't think it's a good idea because obviously we're not speaking the same language. Like we've got French, German, Dutch, Polish, and all these different languages. We're just going to make the workability very, very difficult. And I think the cultural differences and how the army works are too different as well. So you're always going to have like the least common point you're going to agree on. Like, yeah, okay, we'll agree on this, but nobody's going to be happy. Everyone's going to say, yeah, well, that's the only thing we could agree on. But yeah, if you all speak the same language, and I don't know, you've been doing it probably forever, that kind of procedure, or that the Commonwealth.
Literally. I mean, I've been in situations where I've been attached to the Gurkhas, for example, and they naturally do revert back to Nepalese and chat Nepalese when they're when like the shit hits the fan, so to speak. So I've been stood there going, what's going on, lads?
Okay. Yeah, but there's quite a recommended fighting force, yeah?
Yeah. I think they've been going for years and years, mate, and it's the world renowned, I think, for being amazing soldiers and and making sure they get the job done and stuff like that. I think their like whole regimental ethos is I'd rather die than be a coward. So they're fully in on anything.
They're all in. I can't remember. There's one more or less famous guy in the US, UK, Nims. But is he from?
Yeah, Nims die. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but is he from Gurkha originally, and then went SBS, and now climbing all mountains in the world?
Yeah, so I think he was originally in the Gurkhas, then went over to Special Forces, and then climbed. I think he climbed Everest when he was in the Special Forces, and then decided to get out and go break that record for the 14 peaks. And now all he does is that kind of stuff, I think. But yeah, it's he was in as well. Yeah, he was a Gurkha.
Bevor wir weitermachen, will ich kurz was loswerden. Wenn du diesen Podcast schon länger hörst oder vielleicht auch gerade erst reingefunden hast und dir denkst, ey, ganz ehrlich, das gibt mir was, dann wäre es richtig stark, wenn du uns unterstützt. Ein Like, ein Abo, ein Kommentar, das klingt nach einer Kleinigkeit, aber für den Podcast bedeutet das viel. Das ist das, was den Podcast wachsen lässt, was dafür sorgt, dass noch mehr Leute das Ganze mitbekommen und wir weiterhin spannende Gäste einladen können. Und wenn dir diese Folge gefällt und du dir denkst, die muss mein Kumpel, das muss meine Schwester oder mein Trainingspartner hören, dann sei so gut und teile sie mit ihm oder ihr. Der Greenlight Podcast lebt davon, dass echte Leute zuhören, mitdenken und mitfühlen. So wie du. Und genau deswegen machen wir das. Nicht wegen der Klicks oder dem Fame, sondern weil wir daran glauben, dass diese Gespräche, diese Gedanken, dieser Austausch und diese Geschichten wichtig sind. Also, danke für deinen Support und weiter geht's.
Really, really cool stuff. So, coming back to the topic, you said the first couple of years were, very dynamic. You've been on rotation 3 times, so been learning a lot, experiencing a lot. And then, after your last deployment, so your last deployment was 2011, 2012-ish, something like that?
Yeah, I think my last deployment was 2012. Yeah.
Okay, and then you concentrated more on educating yourself, but was that still in the Royal Engineers, or when did you decide to go towards the physical training instructor route?
Yeah, so you can. Within each unit, there's still physical training instructors. So I was a physical training instructor in the Royal Engineers at the time. I got selected to go and lead physical training in a unit for recruits, and then from there, I decided it was literally as soon as coming back from Afghan, moving over to there to Chatham, which is the Royal School of Military Engineering. I went over, was a PTI there for a little period of time, and thought I'd much prefer doing this, taking PT, learning about the body, than going back out to Afghanistan and doing all that stuff again. So what I'll do is I'll specialise and go to the Royal Army Physical Training course. So I went through a selection process, and then you do a 9-month course, and then I did another 7-month course on top of that to be exercise rehabilitation instructor, and then lead kind of the troops on that.
Before all this happened, because you're always doing some kind of sports. So were you doing like active triathlon in your military time? Did you do that before you joined? When did you discover that you want to do triathlons? When did that happen?
So I don't know how it works in the German military, but on a Wednesday afternoon in the British military, everyone does sport. So you don't work, you just do sport. Which is quite cool. So you choose a sport for it. I remember someone coming up to me. I was one of the fastest runners in the unit, and he basically said, "We're going down to do a triathlon today. If you want to come, we're taking the full day off." And I was like, "Day off? Let's do it." So I went down there, and I did quite well. This was maybe in 2008, 2009 ish. I then. Yeah, I got bitten by the bug for triathlon, really. It was one of them things where I knew I could get time off from my unit. I knew they'd let me train, and I knew it was something that I enjoyed. So I basically went and put myself into it, and then ended up on the Army triathlon team for a good couple of years, which was amazing. Basically got paid to do triathlon for a period of time at the unit, which was nice. They used to leave me alone. I would go and do my training like a professional sportsman. Went away and at that period of time between maybe 2013 and 2017, I was winning triathlons, running events, and all sorts, which was quite nice. So it was beneficial for the unit, obviously, because they had someone that they could push out and say, "Look, we're letting this guy do triathlon, and you could do that as well if you get your fitness up and all that kind of stuff." Which was quite nice. But yeah, it was a really good time. So they would send us on like training camps to Cyprus. We would go internationally to race every now and again, which was quite cool. So it was a really good period of time for me, like learning more about triathlon, learning more about the body, pushing myself as well on courses and stuff like that, which was amazing. So I dived fully into triathlon and running, and was in the Army running team and the Army triathlon team for a good period of time.
But how did you end up being a fast runner? That was before you went into it. Did you do running before, or you're just a fast runner?
I used to always be quite chubby, actually, and everyone used to call me the fittest fat guy in the military. So I used to always get called the fittest fat guy in the military, and I used to dine out on that a little bit. And then obviously when I started triathlon, the weight started falling off me, so I lost the title of the fittest fat guy and just became one of the fittest guys, which was cool.
Okay. The fittest fat guy. Yeah, you have to be the fittest at something. Okay, cool. So you were then as an instructor at the engineering school and focused mainly on your triathlon career. And now there's something like this topic is really, really interesting, I think, well, especially for the listeners that are into sports and are maybe in the army or whatever, to see the differences now, because you said you were a physical training instructor in your unit, but what does that mean? Do you go on like some kind of course? How long is that course? What like the topics you cover before you are then like qualified in that?
So you've got to be selected to like work in the gym. So initially, you'll maybe get put into the gym. They'll find out if you're any good and go through that period of time, and maybe 2 to 3 months of learning about what it's like to be a physical training instructor, taking some of the PT sessions, working in the gym, just being around that area and that guidance of like the PTIs. You'll then go on to the PTI course, which is 12 weeks down in Aldershot, so at the Army Physical Training School. You go down there, you do a 12-week course, which is essentially like a physical a PT qualification that you would get in normal everyday life, but it's broken down in 12 weeks. So you go into depth on all sorts of things from, anatomy and physiology, how to manipulate the body, exercise rehabilitation. You'll go through a whole period of time of doing that and then delivering sessions consistently. Once you've passed that, you get to wear the cross swords. So you get a patch on the arm, which is the cross swords, and you are a physical training instructor. So you can then take unit PT. So in your troop, in your squadron, and for the unit, you will then take the sessions in the morning, whether that's, you'll probably just be helping out on majority of them. So a lot of the units do it on different days, but 5 days a week, you'll normally be taking some form of session as a PTI. Everything from loaded marches, running, gym-based sessions, everything you can think of, PTI would lead on that. So you would work in the gym and you would take the actual sessions, but you would still be a Royal Engineer or an Infantier, just a PTI version of that. So you can get pulled away to go to Afghanistan, Iraq, wherever they were going, Kenya, whatever it was. You can get pulled in and go, right, okay, you are now going over to Kenya to do an exercise because we need you in the troops. So you were still a PTI, but you were doing day-to-day work as well.
So that's already the biggest difference, because that's a 12-week course. So 12 weeks is quite a long time, and 12 weeks can really get into, do like a deep dive into a topic and really learn something. Like in the German army, I wouldn't even say it's the equivalent, because it's not the equivalent. It's something completely different, but like a basic course you have to take to officially do sports with the guys, like insurance and whatever. Yeah, so that's
right. Yeah.
But we're talking about a 3.5 week course, and in these 3.5 weeks, 80% of the time you're doing like different versions of table tennis, different versions of basketball, how to like play around and playfully get people to do sports. And this is my personal opinion. It's rubbish, because I've been an instructor at that school as well the last half a year of my time, and I have to say, I'd rather focus on giving the knowledge on how to structure a running program and a strength program and stuff like that, and not playing around table tennis. Because if you're not like running a kilometer in, I don't know, some people take like over 5 minutes and a one-time effort, and that's definitely something I'd be working on more than having the 7th version of table tennis and whatever. So that, and then you go back to your unit, and then you're like you're not a sports trainer. That's not the right term, but you're the guy who's going to run around with them, and if something goes wrong, you're responsible. And we don't have any longer course than that. We do have like little build-up courses as well, like military fitness instructor. That's another 3 weeks where you do stuff, a bit more tactical based, like what my plate carry on, I have to climb over stuff, and how do I structure like a strength and conditioning program for an infantry unit, because obviously they're on rotation, they're on exercise, got long hours, and how do I more or less sensible fit training in there. But that's only 3 weeks, and that's basically it. So also here, I have to say, I do like the British way of doing it, like having a proper course. And how many of these PTIs would you have in a squadron?
Maybe, probably 2 or 3 in a squadron, I would suggest. Normally 1 per troop would be about right. So maybe up to about 5, I would say, anywhere between 2 and 5.
Okay, and I'm confusing. Like a squadron is like got like 2-3 platoons or troops. Is that the same?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the German is like a Kompanie, drei Züge. Yeah, that's pretty decent, having 3 or 5 of these guys in there. What would you say is like what does the British Army focus on? If you're like on fitness, what's the main go-to? Is it going to be loaded marching? Is it going to be running?
Yeah, running and loaded marching, I would say. I mean, it has changed now. So we were all in the era that was trying to change everything. So originally, it was very much being a PTI was how fast can you run? Okay, you're the fastest, you can be a PTI. Whereas now they look across the board, and this is, I suppose, one thing that is really good that's come out of, like we were talking about in recruits, of is the way that it's changed. They now look at education. Oh, you've got a sports science degree, you're probably better off going on a PTI course rather than Gaz who can run fast. Is like how it works now, which is good. So the UK military now, I think, focuses a lot on strength conditioning, running, and different components of physical fitness. So they are trying to change it completely so that they can build stronger, more robust soldiers, because back 10 years ago, it was very much running, loaded marching, a little bit of strength training, but that was just military circuits, really. It wasn't.
Yeah. So that's what the German. Yeah, you're 10 years ago. That's what the German army does now at the moment as well.
Yeah. Okay. So you'll be there in 10 years.
I really do hope so. I really, really do hope so. But how are like the gyms on camp? Do you have decent gyms? That's all been done new now as well.
Yeah, they've all been done up. So they were never very good. They were just big sports halls with treadmills and various different bits. But because they've gone down the strength and conditioning aspect, everything. The easiest way to describe it is every gym now is essentially a Hyrox gym. with loads of CrossFit equipment as well, which is perfect for strength and conditioning and that kind of stuff. So they're actually amazing gyms now.
Maybe you can write a letter to the German Ministry of Defense to tell them, because it really is, that's something I can't just cut off. It really annoys me. It really, really does annoy me, because as you said, all you need is like a bit of space, barbells, some rowers and whatever. It's not like millions of dollars for a gym. And you can do it really, really cool, so people enjoy being there as well. I think that's a big factor they don't understand here. You want to go in, and you're like, oh, this seems like quite a cool place. They've got regimental flags, they've got music on, they've got all the cool gear, and people having decent workouts here. In 9 of 10 camps, you come in and you're like, oh, I think I'm just going to go to bed again, because this is is not really what you would think it would be. So it's a bit annoying.
Yeah, over the last 4 or 5 years, the UK military's transformed all their gyms near enough. Don't get me wrong, there's still some really bad gyms, but the majority of like big units and units that have, thousands of people within them, most of their gyms are really, really good now. So like curved treadmills, sled tracks, barbells everywhere, rowers, ski ergs. The easiest way to look at it is, if you were to build a state-of-the-art Hyrox gym, what would it look like? Most of them look like that now.
That's really, really cool. And how would it work? Like new recruits coming in, basic training and stuff. Do they get like training education, or like would there be, I don't know, gym sessions where they say, hey, line up, we're going to do squats now, we're going to teach you proper squats, and not just say this is how it works? Do they really get educated in how to do these movements?
They do now, yeah. So it used to just be getting thrashed, which I do still think there's a time and a place for that. But for now, for recruits, they go through like a periodized program where they start at learning the foundations, learning the fundamentals of squatting, deadlifting, bench press, and like every movement you can think of. And they build it throughout that training phase as well. So they actually should come to a unit now, capable of doing a decent back squat, a deadlift. So when the unit PTI gets them, they can then mold them into what they need to be. But yeah, they get educated now rather than just getting thrashed, which is another, I think, big win for them. Particularly if you're taking 16-year-old soldiers and who've never trained before in their life, and you need them to get, strong. We want them under a barbell. So actually taking them for a run's probably not going to be the best thing. So it's nice that they've actually started properly implementing all this.
That's 100% the way to go. It can't be any other way. As you just said, funny enough, in the UK, you can still join the army with 16, is it?
Yeah, 16, yeah.
Grab them right out of school.
Yeah, you get them straight in. I joined at 17, just turned 17, so it was, it's the same as it's a good thing, I think. I mean, when I say a 16-year-old kid now, I just look at them and think, you are so young. But in the same sense, it gives you an option straight out of school to go, okay, well, I'm going to go and try to better myself in the military. And there's options, various different options, whether it's like Marines, British Army, Navy, whatever, RAF. Like, there's so many different options that you can go into and start with.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's weird. I think my dad went with 16 as well, just dropped out of school and said, hey, this looks good. And and stayed in for 24 years. But how can because the big topic now is like in the German army, if you're discussing doing sports, doing physical training, it's always time. We don't have any time, and time here and time there. Especially like in basic training where you're learning quite a lot of stuff. Obviously, it is difficult to find time to do more and more stuff. But how long would you say at the moment is like an average day of a recruit in the British Army? Do they still like wake up at 5 and have training until, I don't know, 11, 12? Or do they have normal working hours? Because that's a bit of a trouble we're having here.
I think it's probably moving towards normal working hours. I think they still cram in a lot of lessons and a lot of different bits. And obviously, when I say it's like normal working hours, they'll still be ironing their kit later on. They'll still be making their rooms up and all that kind of stuff that's the add-on bit. But I think they probably try to make it not as comfortable, but as productive as possible, where they can actually teach them and go through actual lessons that they're going to listen to and then show them, do the practical side of it as well. I think they've moved into a slightly more routine, I guess, rather than, I know when I went through training, it was very much, up at 5, just in lessons constantly. And then we were, I don't know about you, we weren't even sleeping on our beds because we didn't want to crease them. So we'd make them at the night, iron them, and then sleep on the floor.
Yeah, it wasn't that. We didn't have that. No, we did go to bed. That's a pretty smart move, isn't it?
Yeah, it would just save. I don't know why it saves you 5 minutes in the morning, but you don't sleep at all. So there was no, like, looking back at it now, it's an absolute ridiculous thing to do. But I just remember doing it.
Yeah, but with 17, 18, your mind works differently. It's like, it's the same as not getting out of bed properly. Like, you're going to sleep 15 minutes longer, which is not going to have any benefit at all.
No.
But you're going to be late for work. You're not going to have breakfast. Yeah. You're going to be in a hurry. So there, sometimes our mind wants to play tricks on us.
Definitely.
Okay, so now, just to recap this, PTI, as an engineer, you went on this 12-week course, learned all that stuff, and were embedded back in your unit. And with all the physical training sessions and stuff, you would be one of the guys to talk to, and you would probably think of new ways to get training done and just help out on that occasion. But we're also still an engineer. Then, sometime you went to the PT core. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's a whole new section again. So you have to pick us up, because we do not have a PT core. So please tell me and the rest of the German listeners, what is the PT core?
Yeah, so I did the PTI bit, and then you can essentially apply to be selected to go to the Royal Army Physical Training course. So there's only 300 of them across the whole military that are Royal Army Physical Training Corps instructors. But essentially, you go for a week selection course where they question you on all things, anatomy, physiology, planning, unit policies. You do some physical development. You give briefs. You do all sorts of different bits. And if you're selected, normally about 8 to 12 people will get selected. You'll then start the process of moving over to the Royal Army Physical Training course. So you do a 9-month course, which is learning everything from policies to, how to manipulate the body, to adventure training. We did, so many different courses. So like rock climbing instructor, kayak instructor, athletics instructor, swim teacher. Like, you basically have to know everything, essentially. So whenever I look at my CV and people, if people message on Plug-in Rehab and say, what qualifications have you got? I've literally got hundreds of qualifications, because I've just been through that process of just having to be an instructor at everything. Because essentially, if your unit is going rock climbing in Germany, you have to be there. You have to be one of the instructors. If you're going kayaking in Spain, you have to be there. You have to be one of the instructors. So you go through that 9-month course of learning everything. At that point, some people will go off and be the head of strength and conditioning, head of unit PT for whatever unit it is. And then another batch of people will be selected to go on their exercise rehabilitation instructors course, which is another 7 months learning about the body. So it's essentially a physio degree, but put down into 7 months instead. So it's 7 o'clock in the morning till 7, 8 o'clock at night of lessons, and then you're revising, and you've got exams and lessons to deliver and all sorts. It's quite an intense course. It was, looking back, it's quite fun, but at the time it definitely wasn't fun. Hated every single minute of it, but you learn so much with it. And then the people that have done the exercise rehabilitation course, they'll go and sit in their regional rehabilitation units. So in the British military, we've got rehab units all over. So if you get injured, you can go to there and do a 3-week intensive course for rehab. So you'll be surrounded by doctors, rehab teams, physios, social workers, everyone you can think of. But you'll do a 3-week course for that to get you back into normal unit and back to being fit. So we would go and lead the rehab there. So that's the way that I went down it. So I did my 9-month PT course, 7-month ERI course, and then went off to Headley Court, which is the UK's biggest military hospital.
That's, I think, because I listened to one of the podcasts of you and Mike. I think that's where you guys met as well, was it? That course, yeah.
Yeah, me, Mike, and Isaac were on the same course. two bald guys now with the head shave.
Yeah, Mike's still got quite a good set of hair. I think
he has got.
He'll still bald free.
He will. He'll be all right. But yeah, that's where we all met. Because it's such a long course, and so everyone who's on there is a sergeant as well. So everyone's at the same level. It's quite a nice adult course. It's not just getting thrashed all the time. It's everyone's kind of learning from each other and respects each other as well.
And are there any like highlights of that course where you'd say that was the most interesting part, or something where you maybe risk your life, or I don't know, something?
Not really on that course, you know. It's very educational based. So there's a lot of time in the classroom. There's a lot of time delivering lessons. Like I said, there's 14 weeks of adventure training instructor courses. So doing all the things I really don't like rock climbing, kayaking, like all these kind of things. So that was 14 weeks of hell for me, but for everyone else, they loved it.
I think like the German army's always got like a saying: you are doing stuff, other people will be paying a lot of money to do this. Yeah. And that sounds like one of these things where like, oh, I'm not really enjoying this. Like, other people are going to pay a lot of money to do rock climbing, sir. And you're like, yep, you're
I love
right.
I love you've got that same. We've got the exact same phrase. People say civilians would pay thousands for this.
Yeah. And now being a civilian, I actually do believe them, because there are quite a lot of things where you see, yeah, it's pretty cool actually if you do this. And now like doing my skydiving and stuff, paying for it's not as enjoyable as getting it for free. Like, who would be the instructors on this kind of course? Is it all army, or do you have also like civilian experts that teach, or is it all in-house?
Yeah, so it's led by the army. So physical training score, Royal Army Physical Training Corps instructors that have been in for 3, 4, 5 years. They teach the courses, but we get experts in from like UK athletics, UK swimming, UK Strength Conditioning Association. Like they all come in and deliver certain parts of it. So it's all led by the military, but ultimately they get experts in at different times to teach you certain bits to make sure that you're relevant as well. And because you're getting quite a lot of civilian qualifications, it has to be led by them too.
That sounds really good. It definitely sounds like a course that's really, really beneficial, and I would definitely enjoy doing that kind of stuff. And yeah, but we don't have anything close to it, not even close. And like just like my last posting was at the German armies. Is it the armies or military sports school? That's where like Darren out of our team, he's one of the COs there, and yeah, you do like lots of little stuff like sports stuff, but nothing compared to what you guys are doing. What happens if you've passed the course? You then go back to your unit and or you do stay at one camp?
So you go to whatever unit you're assigned to, basically. But you're in charge of all the PTIs, all the physical development, all the strength and conditioning for that unit. So you are, instead of being a PTI that is still in the engineers, you are completely removed from that. It's your own part. You run the whole gym. So like we were talking about gyms getting better equipment and that kind of stuff. As the Royal Army Physical Training Corps instructor, you'd be in charge of getting the budget, spending the budget, building out the gym, making sure the risk assessments are sorted, making sure that the strength and conditioning plan is in place, making sure that the PTIs are doing what they are doing, educating the PTIs, but being held accountable to your CO, your regimental sergeant majors and stuff like that as well.
Okay, but you'll be like the number one guy on camp for all that kind of stuff. Do you have like an officer as well who's got that qualification?
No. Yeah, so there's officers that you have to promote to be an officer in there, but there's no officer within your unit normally.
Okay. Yeah, so pretty cool. But you decided you want to do the rehab course as well. So that's what you did. That's why you're now a rehab instructor.
Yeah.
And worked in Headley Court. I can't remember the whole story, but there was definitely some kind of funny story. You arriving on that camp and having some issues going to court at some time as well. Military court.
Oh yeah, that was the end of my career. That is when I said the end. It wasn't why my career ended, but yeah, I had a bit of a falling out. So the military at Headley Court is RAF, Navy, and Army all work together. Now, the Army works completely different to the Royal Air Force, that works completely different to the Navy. So me and a RAF instructor just did not get on at all. Like, he had a completely different work ethic to me. He was a bit of a melt, and we just didn't get on at all. So it ended up being I ended up taking him to court martial because he was essentially bullying everyone, and I wanted to make sure that I went out with a bang rather than just kind of sit there and take it. What had happened is everyone had been taking what he'd been doing for years and years and years and years and years. And I'm not in the business of just sitting back and going, let's just leave it and see what happens. I decided to sort him out and take him to court martial, mate. So yeah, it's a weird scenario because I don't know. It probably the same for the German lot as well. Is each branch of the military works completely different. Like how you are in your unit is completely different to another unit, and you just don't. Sometimes you just don't see eye to eye, and you just go, "Why are you doing things like this? I can't get on board with it."
Yeah, 100%. You view the world differently. It's really, especially like in the German army, you always have the jokes about the Air Force because the Air Force is the Air Force. You don't have a lot of infantry like in the Air Force, even though there is like a little regiment that does infantry similar stuff. But the rest are pretty laid back, not very hardworking, not in for the gunfights and stuff. And it's very, very different to like the paratroopers or whatever. You're like, why are you guys not getting out here? And they're like, oh, we have to sleep 10 hours or else we're not allowed to fly. And you're like, well done, then we'll just march back.
Yeah, it's exactly the same in our military as well.
So before we go into the part where you're passing out, you're leaving the army, sometime whilst you're still in the army, I think, you set the world record for being the fastest marathon runner dressed as a hot dog.
Yeah, so it's the fastest marathon dressed as an item of food. So
okay.
I basically got, I think they call it good for age entry now, but it used to be called elite entry for the marathon, and I got a spot at London Marathon. Obviously, I wasn't going to win London Marathon, but I thought, well, if I'm not going to win it, maybe I'll go and set a world record. So I literally looked like what world record was achievable, what wasn't. And at the time, the world record for that was 4 hours 6 minutes, I think. And then, so I applied to do it. They said, yes, you can come along and try to break that world record. The week before, someone had broke the record again, and it was like dropped down to 3:25, which is, it dropped it again. And I was like, oh shit, now I'm gonna have to go sub 3 hours. So I basically went down there with the goal of breaking that world record, which I did. So I did it in 2 hours 59, dressed as a hot dog, which was quite cool. And it's still standing today, which is nice.
Yeah, I checked it before we came on. It definitely is. Like, doing a sub 3 hour marathon is a pretty decent time anyway, even not being dressed as a marathon. So that's pretty good. And it's just a really cool thing. I think we'll try to get the picture in here so we can prove you having that little certificate from the Guinness Book of World Records. When did you decide that you were going to leave the army? Was it just like for you something you were already planning on, like, hey, I'm going to stay in for 12, 14 years and then go out? Or was it more or less leaving the engineers? That's how I see it lots of times. Like, you're moving from the real army life, going into PTI, the course, you're like, oh, this is cool, learning lots of new stuff. And then you're at Headley Court, and I think the spirit there is something different than you were used to.
Yeah, no, exactly that. I think I'd almost... So at the end of the engineers stuff, I think if I'd left the military when I got out of the engineers, I would have really missed it because it was the unit life that I loved, like all the lads, that kind of stuff. Because I went off and did the physical training side, you're very much an individual. It's not like a unit together. It's you delivering PT and doing all that kind of stuff. I got to Headley Court, and there's a lot of civilians there, and there's a lot of different, like I say, RAF, Navy, that kind of stuff. And I think I just felt like it was a good transition into normal life because I'd come out of it's almost felt like I'd come out of the military and I was now working in a normal hospital and a rehab unit that was a civilian based one. And I think once you start moving away from that. It just felt like the right time for me. It was never I'd never had an idea in my mind of like, oh, I'll leave at 13, 14 years, whatever it may be. I always kind of had it in my mind that I would do 22 years. I think that was always the goal, to become a regimental sergeant major and do 22 years. But yeah, I got to Headley Court and it just felt like it was a civilian job. And I thought, if I'm going to get out now and try not to be institutionalized, I think this is probably the point to do it. And it felt, and to be honest, I mean, touch wood, it's felt like a really good transition out, because I've not really noticed a massive difference from where I was before. And I feel like it worked for me. So yeah, that was kind of the angle that I went with it.
How was it in the British Army when you leave? Because I think this is one point I would say the German Army might be have a couple of more points to it. When you leave the army, so like with us, it is the longer you stay in, the more benefits you get. Like in my case, I left after 14 years, and well, I had a contract for 14 years, but I was after 12 years, I could start like a civilian trade. And they would just let me do it, and I would still be a soldier. I would still be paid by the army, still be insured by the army. And can you do like I can go studying, do a trade, whatever. And after those 2 years, I officially leave the army and still have 3 years where I get additional pay from the German military, like 75 to 90% of my last paycheck for another 3 years to get myself settled in. And we also have, that's changed by like 20,000 euros we can use for education. Like I did like a trade as a sports and health instructor, which was a private school, had to be paid for and stuff. And that all was paid by the army. So we've got like a 5-year transition phase for me where I don't have to panic to earn money because I still get paid. And how does it work with you guys? Because I think my dad had like a computer course. And that was it. 1 week.
Yeah, no, it definitely doesn't work like the German one. So you sign off and you say, I'm going to leave the military. Depending on how long you've done, depends on how much money you get to spend. So if you've done over 12 years, you get the full, I think it's like £9,000 to spend on a course, or 3 courses. So you get blocks of £3,000 essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So you spend that, but the issue is you can spend that throughout your career while you're still serving. So some people will maybe have spent it on random bits when they were 19, 20 years old and now have no money to spend on courses because they've already spent it. But yeah, you get a bounty to spend on that, and then come 12-month point, see ya, you're done. There's no... Like I mean, I've been out 4 years. I've never had one message from the military. I've never had one thing from the military of like, are you okay? You know, spend this money, don't spend this money. Like, I've still got one of my, it's called learning credits. I've still got 1 learning credit left, and I think it runs out next year. So I need to spend that. But yeah, I've never had a message to say, oh, by the way, this is going to run out, because obviously they want that money back as well. So
100%.
Yeah, they don't do a great deal for you when you're leaving. It's 12 months to sort yourself out a job, and then you get out, really.
Okay, because that's what I more or less knew from my dad's place and stuff as well. And that's why I really have to say I do like I'm a German military, because 12, 14, 15 years is quite a long time. And if you've got like a hard cutoff and you have to, you're going to be a grown up at that point. You might have kids and house and stuff, and you have to earn money. And if you don't have this opportunity to like concentrate on learning something new or studying something new, you'll have to take some kind of job because you have to earn money. And that would be not as satisfying than like what I'm doing now, building my own business and
100%.
not having panic.
You'll have seen there's quite a lot of like British veterans that are homeless on the streets of like London and stuff like that, maybe. But that's exactly what you're saying is, I think because in the military, everything's given to you, and you know where your food is, you know where to sleep, like everything's done in an order, and you go, right, I know what I'm doing today. I know I've got a bed. I know that I've got my food. Like, that's done. The minute that's taken away from you, and particularly if you've got no qualifications and no job opportunities and stuff like that, then 12 months is not that longer time to figure your whole life out, really, from doing 15 years in the military.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. It's I think it's something worldwide. It's not too easy to transition out because, as you said, yeah, it's a structure you've known, you've been in your whole life, and then you're just going to be there on your own again. But yeah, going to the civilian. You're now a civilian for 4 years going. Feeling good from outside. It looks very, very successful what you guys are doing. Maybe you can tell us what you are all about now, Plug-in Rehab.
Yeah, no, it's going really well at the moment. So I set up Plug-in Rehab a couple of years ago now, just to hopefully like provide a little bit more assurance to online coaches. I basically wanted coaches to be able to have their own exercise rehabilitation instructor to help them, provide a better level of service to their athletes, to make sure that their athletes could have free access to healthcare services, and then ultimately to keep people on coaching programs, because people that drop off don't tend to get results. So yeah, it was about essentially going, what does the UK military do really well, and what did I enjoy? How can I do that in normal life? And then built it into a company that obviously works with Dean and Greenlight Fitness now. But yeah, it's going really, really well, and I think it's something that you might not use every single day, but it's more of an insurance policy for most coaches to have someone to go to and ask questions and send people if they need to, and just have that level of care and community for their athletes. So yeah, it's going really well, mate, at the moment. And I think there's a lot to be said about good people in the military will normally do really well on the outside, because I'm quite happy getting stuck into all the crap and different bits that I probably don't want to do every day, but I just know I have to do every single day, similar to yourself and, all the other ex-military people that are doing really well. I think we've been built to do everything and just make sure that bits are done. Like, the small bits have to be done just as well as the big bits. And I think that's stood me in really good stead, particularly from a business point of view.
Yeah, I have to say, what you guys, because you're like a whole group of like veterans doing stuff together, which I think is very, very cool. So I always look what you guys are doing, you, Mike, Isaac, the whole group, and always look at what you guys doing, because I think it's really, really cool what you are doing. And as we figured out early on, we're 10 years behind. So this whole training military personnel or law enforcement, whatever, physical training, but we have like special trainings programs for them. That's new. And having access to like a physio, a rehab instructor, that's something which it's not normal. So that's, well, I think it's really, really sensible, because I remember how we met. It was on a call from Mike. I don't know, was it like a free call? And I said, oh, it's cool what he's doing. And you talked about what you were doing, and I'm like, that sounds pretty cool. It sounds decent. And then we've been working now for like over 1.5 years now together. So
yeah, we have. I was going to say nearly 2 years now, isn't it? Nearly 2 years, which is cool.
It is nearly 2 years, yeah. And I really enjoy it, because that's what you said. We don't always have people that need you this week or next week. But just getting the insurance as a trainer as well, to ask Gary, hey, watch out, we've got something here and there. What did you say? And the way you work about things, it's very, keep it simple. Like, hey, don't do this, do more of that, and you'll be fine. And I think that's something really, really good, because here, more or less, most people tend to say, please don't do anything anymore. And you better be careful doing squats, because you know what happens when you squat below 90 degrees. Your kneecaps are going to go flying out. And it's always good to have someone who's an expert on a topic to say, hey, we can talk to Gary if you want to, and then we'll talk to you, and everyone's happy. And we've had really, really great results doing that. But now you're like in the Hyrox game, I think you guys mix up like the military training and like the Hyrox. It's like you do both. That's your go-to at the moment, isn't it, for clients?
Yeah. So obviously I'm one of the directors at Red On as well, but we noticed a real correlation between Hyrox and tactical athletes. It seems to work really well. It's how Mike always says it as well. It's quite, if you were to design what a training program would look like for a military personnel, it probably would look a little bit like a Hyrox training program, because you need to be good at everything, movement standards and all that kind of stuff. So it's worked really well for us, because And in fact, you've seen it as well, mate, with some of your friends. Military population are very, very good at Hyrox because they're used to getting put in the locker all the time. If you're a fit military person, you're probably going to be very good at Hyrox. If you know, it doesn't take a genius to look at, particularly over in the UK, we've got people like Danny Ray, Aaron Woodman. The Sutherland brothers have just qualified for the Elite 15 doubles, like some really, really good military athletes that have done that. So we took a bit of a direction change where we said Hyrox is maybe what we are really good at alongside the tactical stuff. So we've moved into that as well.
Yeah, I think but now this is a big discussion like here in Germany, probably is you guys, because you said all important key points are covered in a Hyrox. The CrossFit community would say, no, you're not. But do you see those two against each other, where you say, both works pretty well? Do you have like a big CrossFit community UK?
Yeah, huge. CrossFit's massive in the UK. I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because if you look at what makes a very good soldier or a very fit soldier, it would be like moving with weight, lunging, tactically taking a knee, doing stuff like that. Wall balls are probably quite conducive to like throwing things over a 6-foot wall, whatever it may be. Like all the Hyrox movement standards somehow pair with being the military personnel. Now, snatching 110 kg is great, but that's not going to mean that you can go into a firefight and come out of the other end because you've done a 30-yard dash, gone and done a crawl, and then taken an enemy position. That doesn't make you a great soldier. But Hyrox is very, very conducive to the tactical athlete population. So we kind of split that anyway. I think they're two complete different sports. I know a lot of people say on Instagram, Hyrox is just CrossFit for runners and whatnot. They're two complete different sports, aren't they? Like it's nowhere near the same.
Yeah. I love this banter anyway. So I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, you think they're rubbish, they think they're rubbish, but I think the only key component on Hyrox would be like what's missing is like a strength part, because it's not really, except for the sled maybe. But on the other hand, saying a properly well-structured Hyrox program, like off-season, he'll be doing back squats, he'll be doing deadlifts and stuff. That's what most people, I think, do tend to get wrong, because they think Hyrox is I'm doing like something Hyrox similar 4 times a week.
Yeah.
And do no strength training. Yeah. But I think it's cool. You don't have to do any fancy movements. You don't have to dance on your hands and whatever, which I think is cool if you've got the time and you're into it. But lots of people are very, very fit and are not really willing to do 7 sessions a week, 2 hours doing handstands and whatever, just want to get running. So that's why I quite like doing it. I'm doing one in Hamburg this year again with one of the team.
Nice.
See how that goes. And we've got our own little Hyrox athlete, the Philip, who's been doing really, really well this season, targeting Elite 15 for next year.
Yeah, I'd seen him in Barcelona, gave him a big tap, and he went, you're the physio.
Oh, did you meet each other, yeah? Yeah, cool.
Yeah. I said, you're Dean's friend. And he said, you're the physio.
Said, really, really cool. Gary, that was really, really cool. Really cool talking to you. And just me think if I'm forgetting. I've got 2 or 3 questions I would want to ask you from the community, because these are like questions that always come as well.
Yeah, go.
Cool if you can answer them, because I think you're in a hurry. You're looking somewhere. I don't know if Laura's waiting for you.
No, I've got 7 minutes and I've got 2 calls, mate.
Okay, I'll hurry up. Number 1, I think this is probably the most popular question, probably in your with your guys as well. How do I prevent shin splints?
Strength training. Having good base of strength. So 99% of injuries come down to the fact that you are not strong enough to cope with the demands of whatever training it is we're asking you to do. So it all comes down to what muscle is breaking down. So if you look at shin splints, predominantly we look at balance. Your balance training is probably not great. Your soleus muscle, your tibia, and then the like stronger, more powerful posterior chain muscles, hamstrings, adductors, glutes, aren't strong enough to take the load, particularly if you're in the military. Now you're looking at carrying extra weight. That's going to cause it to break down even quicker, faster. With that, now, if you're running, yes, it might be a slower, progressive build-up into shin splints, but Also, one thing to be mindful of is a little bit of shin pain does not mean you have shin splints.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The amount of people that come to me and say, oh, I've got shin splints and this is going on. 99% of people who have shin pain do not have shin splints. Shin splints is a chronic condition that's been going on 6, 18, 24 months, right? If you've had a little bit of shin pain, chill, relax, do your strength training, maybe go on a bike instead of going for a run for a couple of sessions. It'll probably die down and you'll probably be okay. But ultimately, get stronger.
Thank you. Getting stronger, thank you. And thank you for saying you don't have shin splints just because after 20K run, your shins are a little bit itchy. And I'm like, yeah, that happens.
That's part and parcel of pushing the body, right?
Yeah, it is. I have to check this one. There was another one. Just hang on a second. I'm gonna.
All right, mate.
Do I want to keep you off work? Saved it here. 5,000 messages here.
All the messages.
Yeah, but you're a very good message answer, I have to say. You are very, very fast.
Yeah, I think a lot of people overcomplicate it. I'm not a complicated person. I like things just down the line and straight.
Are you guys doing a Red On event this year again?
So we've got the Backyard Ultra we're doing.
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
We might look at doing one possibly around December time if we can get a venue for it.
Oh, that'll be a nice run outside then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, out in the water there.
The same location. I can't. Let me just have a look. Have I got it here? Oh, did I lose this question mark thing? No, I can't really find it now. Yeah, whatever. Not to worry. We might get in touch again sometime again. The Backyard Ultra, that's definitely the idea. I already told you we're going to steal that. We're going to try to do something similar down here because I really think that idea is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a good one, isn't it? I say Nick Bear started it. Like they've been going for years and years, but Nick Bear did a good YouTube on it, and we watched that and thought, yeah, that's a good event. Let's do that.
So that's 4.5 miles, 4 miles every hour.
4.2 miles every hour on the hour for as long as you can go.
Last man standing wins.
Yeah. Last one standing on that, and then everyone else is a DNF.
Did not. Yeah, it's. I think it's really cool because that's like a mind game. It's like I can't run too fast because I'll be exhausted, but I can't run too slow because I'll only have like 50-minute break.
Exactly.
So that's a mind game. Love it.
And everyone has different. Like your strategy might be that I don't know, you come in at 55 minutes, have 5 minutes break, and then go again. And then someone else's might be, I'm going to run each one in 40 minutes and have 20 minutes break. Like it's down to you and how that works for your strategies as well. Which is
when are you guys doing it?
It's August 30th, so it's a bank holiday in the UK.
Okay, so that's still quite some time. All right, cool, Gazman. You've got your calls going on. I thank you very much. I hope all the listeners enjoyed it, but I think it was a really cool insight into how the British military works, especially like on the PT side of things. Interesting to get to know who you are, what you've already done, and yeah, we'll stay in touch. Just stay on this website for a short until it's fully uploaded, please, and then.
Of course, mate.
We're fine. All right, Gaz, thanks for your time.
Legend. Thanks very much, mate.